Women of Power podcast is a platform for passionate and influential women who are catalysts for change, pioneers in their fields, the change makers, the trailblazers, performers and influencers, driven entrepreneurs and professionals. They play a vital role in driving economic growth and bridging the talent shortages across organizations of various scales. Building cause-based businesses to create positive impact in their communities and towards sustainable goals for the people, planet, and prosperity. In every industry, women are shattering barriers and strive to create a space where they can exhibit their achievements and motivate other women to unleash their limitless potential. We encourage collaboration, networking, and knowledge sharing among women. Let's inspire and learn from one another while sharing our valuable experiences. Thank you for joining us and listening to this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Women of Power. Women of Power podcast is a platform for passionate and influential women who are catalysts of change, the pioneers in their field, the change makers, the trailblazers, the performers, the influencers, the driven entrepreneurs, and professionals. They play a vital role in driving economic growth and bridging talent shortages across the organization of various scales, building cause-based businesses to create positive impact in their communities and towards the sustainable goals for the people, planet, and prosperity. The Women of Power is a dynamic platform that recognizes incredible women as a driving force behind the global economic growth. It is a platform that celebrates and empowers women of passion and power. Today, my guest has a very unique story of her own, and I am very delighted to welcome Amervis López Cobb. She is a AI transformational architect, a psychological safety expert, twice the #1 bestseller author, founding member of Latina 100. And she says that she was a teen mom in North Philly. North Philly's Badlands. I don't know. I'll let her explain what she means by the Badlands.
That's the name. That's the name that the news media outlets called it. Called the area.
All right.
Yes. So
your journey from North Philly's Badlands to the Fortune 500 C-suite. That's amazing. It comes with, as she says in her words, the penalty marginalized leaders pay by having to prove competence repeatedly, while others get automatic credibility. I understand that. She helps Fortune 500s, nonprofits, and visionary executives to adopt AI without losing their best people by debugging bias algorithms. Oh, wow, that's very timely, and fixing systemic inequities. So her approach to the architecture is to design systems that work for everyone. So AI amplifies human potential instead of compounding inequity. She has led projects up to 95 million initiatives. She's recognized by Congress for advancing women in business. In her #1 bestseller, Leading with Psychological Safety, provides 52 essential practices for building trust and future-proofing teams. Tell me more about you. I know there's more behind the bios. So tell me, who is Amervis?
Yes, who is Amervis? Amervis, number one, I lead with my identity because I feel like it's important to not hide that. And I hid it for so many decades because I was penalized when I was open about my Afro-Latina background and my teen mom background. And now I'm at the point in my life where being an Afro-Latina means carrying the history of both the resistance and the reinvention of my DNA. My Puerto Rican roots taught me dignidad, which translates into dignity as a daily act. And that community isn't charity, it's structure. And my passion for women from historically excluded communities and cultures, what I now like call HECC, HECC. I don't want to talk about us as marginalized anymore. I know that that word marginalized has been used repeatedly, but I've come to realize that marginalized makes it seem like we somehow drifted to the edges, and it talks about where they put us as opposed to the fact that there's exclusion by design. And so I'm really passionate about this because I think it comes from living a life where I'm a pattern recognizer, and I now call what is happening. And I see this whole leadership epidemic happening because I'm looking at my lived experience. I'm looking at the data, the research, all of the peer-reviewed research that's happening right now about leadership and leadership failures and how we can do better. And I'm calling this the hidden leadership tax. And I'm calling it the hidden leadership tax because it's the extra tax we pay as women and as HECC communities, as I'm calling it, for daring to lead while excluded by design. And I want women to know that they're not too much. The systems are too small. And that, in a nutshell, is the answer to the first question. Because I used to lead with all my backstory, and I'm like, if people want your backstory, they can read it in your books. But I'm at the point now where my mission, Ritu, is I believe that I went through everything that I went through because we're at a point in history where we have to help our emerging leaders and even the leaders like myself who were conditioned to believe that normalizing harm is just the way that we do things. And I believe that eliminating bias in human and tech systems is something that we have to at least strive for. Because a lot of people are like, oh, Mervis, you're so naive. It's not going to change. It's not going to change in our lifetime. And I believe that even if it doesn't change in my lifetime completely, whatever I can do to provide incremental language changes or incremental insights to let us like unleash our throat chakra. I'm trying to use a term that, you know, my friend said, let your throat chakra free. Just say what you have to say and stop holding back. Because I realize that it affects us physically when we internalize a lot of these things. And so I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, I saw the patterns. I saw that it's not good. I'm reading the data on like the Women McKinsey leadership reports. I've been following them for 5 or 6 years. They validate the experiences that we have. What are we doing about it? So I took all of this and I said, okay, I used to think that I had to do this, like create an app or do something major. And again, someone once said to me, your writing is also healing. Your writing is also helping. You can do it through your writing if that's what you feel is the modality that best heals you and also heals other people. And so I'm doing that. I'm writing, I'm speaking, I'm doing workshops, and I feel really good about clients who have reached out to me, who have seen me on some podcast or at an event or a webinar, and they're like, we need what you have. And I'm like, thank you, creator, that I'm now able to take what I've transformed and alchemized my pain and my trauma into solutions to help others see that they're not alone, they're not crazy, and it's time for us to do better, right? Instead of being bitter, let's be better. That little one, i.e.
I love it. I love it. Instead of being bitter, be better. Yes, I think we all need to dig deep inside our own hearts. We can't
Yeah.
change the past that took
Right.
place, but present and in our hands. So
Right.
how we take the lessons of the past and change things, change the narrative going forward. And I was paying attention when you said that people say that, well, it's not going to change in our lifetime. Well, if we sit and not do anything, nothing will change,
That's right. That's
right?
right.
So
That's
the
right.
actions are taken in the present moment. The results may come in our lifetime or may not. But if we take
Yes.
no action and think of the trailblazer women, if they sat and didn't do anything, the generation of women that we see today, accomplished leaders, they will not be there, right? So
That's right.
a foundation was laid,
That's
something
right.
was set up in order to go. And we are into the fourth industrial revolution,
Mm-hmm.
the age of AI, and everyone um, likes to implement. Everyone, I mean by all organization, would like to implement
Mm-hmm.
it, and nothing wrong with it if it brings positive changes, right?
That's
So
right.
how to go about it and at what incremental? Like you said, without any bias, keeping your best people.
That's
Your people are your biggest asset. So without compromising your most important asset and how to implement, it's a long conversation itself, right?
Well, I'm writing a whole book about it. That's my next book, and I'm titling it The Hidden Leadership Tax because I think it's important that we recognize what is happening, not just in organizations where women are showing themselves to be the go-to for the young generation, but also so let me put it to you this way. The way that I see what's happening is AI and psychological safety are two sides of the same ethical coin. And I see the same blind spots that harm people can harm data and vice versa. And because I have an extensive background in project management offices and technology implementations, I remember over 20 years ago implementing systems and seeing the data. The term was garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely.
Right, that's right. And 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 oh, did you want to say? I'm sorry, I didn't want to.
No,
Did you want to say?
I have been 25 years myself in Fortune 500 in IT
Mhm.
compliance, data security, data privacy,
Yes.
cybersecurity, GDPR, whatnot, and
Yes. You're
AI
speaking
and
my language.
yes. So
Yes.
I hear you, and
Yes.
I am hear the AI ethics expert or experts that you want to have governance, better governance.
That's right.
The
That's right.
bias in AI, I know from an organizational perspective, they may not
Hmm.
be so concerned about it at the moment because they want to say, hey, we want to be on the bandwagon to implement AI,
Right.
right? How
Right.
to, what for? Not many organizations have a clear goal or clear view. And this is what I hear so much. So I have been in the same places as you,
Hmm.
implementing technologies and seeing the SDLC life cycles and compliance
Hmm.
kinds of things. So
Yep.
we're speaking that language. And I hope our listeners are also picking up on that, that um, I think our messaging here is that there is not resistance towards implementing AI, but how to,
Right. That is correct.
right?
It's not how fast we can adopt AI. I think it's how how important is it for us to build a trust infrastructure that helps organizations design equitable systems before automating inequity. And whether I'm training human teams or auditing algorithms, the
Mhm.
principle is the same. Fairness has to be engineered, not hoped for. And my work ensures that both humans and machines are trained to protect dignity, not replicate bias. And I know you said something earlier that spurred my thought process around how the priority is move fast and implement fast. And I remember again 10, 15 years ago when they had the little um faster, better, cheaper or something. There was some three words that they used, right? And so it always reminds me of that whole we don't have time to pause and get the requirements right, get the design right before we start building, but we have time to clean it all up later when we realize that what we deployed didn't quite meet the expectations, right?
Yeah.
And I read a study, it was from Harvard, and I don't know how to say Klein, I don't know how to say the organization that was working with Harvard to do this, but it was saying that even in Europe, they're passing now laws to help us make sure that AI ethics is part of what's happening because the article was honing in on the faster we deploy, the harder it's going to be to unravel those mistakes that are made. And so they're estimating, and of course this is the Harvard, so it's not like Harvard. I'm sorry, not Harvard. The Harvard is a health
Yeah.
accommodation organization, but the Harvard and what they're trying to message us about is that we have 18 to 24 months to get this right before the biases are so embedded in the code that it's going to be really, really, really difficult to unravel. And again, we could, more than the time we have available, some of the stuff I'm seeing is really concerning because the biases are built into from recruitment from before the time the candidate even gets in front of an organization in
Yeah.
terms of resumes and keywords. And I read something the other day about how women were being excluded from the hiring process because as women we're taught to make sure that we put our accomplishments on our resumes as we build experiences. And so women were putting keywords like women's employee resource group chair or women's employee
Mm.
whatever the initiative was. And so the algorithm was picking up on the word women's or women and excluding the resume from the hiring recruitment process. And so it's very concerning because not just in recruitment, but in performance management, just if we're teaching the system that certain cultural ways of speaking or even neurodivergent. I think of people who are neurodivergent who don't want to be on camera because they think differently and they process differently. Whatever it is, it's hard for the system to know, for the AI to know that this is a nuance that we have to account for. Let's not discount people like that, and let's not tag them as
I want to
something's wrong,
I want to
right?
interject here, and my
Yes,
apology,
yes.
but this is
No, no.
very important. As you mentioned, word neurodivergent. So when I was doing the research for this book a couple of years ago,
Oh,
2 3 years
woman,
ago,
yes.
so it's a very holistic approach that was post-pandemic. I interviewed many experts from different domains. One of them was an organizational psychologist. And
Mm-hmm.
the day I was interviewing, she had published a study a week before and was very enthusiastic. We talked about it. And she says that, you know what? Um, this is for the first time. I'm just quoting her words.
Mm-hmm.
The first time in the history of United States, the entering workforce from 18
Mm-hmm.
years to 22, 30% are neurodivergent.
Mm.
I thought about it, and as I am very well connected globally with the different trends that I see and
Mm-hmm.
speak to women leaders, and so I said that I believe that is the case. The number of neurodivergent younger
Mm-hmm.
population has gone up in mostly the metropolitan, I would say, for different reason I can think of,
Mm-hmm.
even though they have not published studies, but I am certain,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
And every interview, I was in the middle of that, the interview process. Every interview after I had with leaders, men and women, I
Mm-hmm.
added a question and I asked them, are we prepared to integrate neurodivergent
Mm-hmm.
workforce? by default, the answer was no.
That's right.
Most of the people were taken back that because I, as an author, it was important to me.
Mm-hmm.
As we are into fourth industrial revolution, into the digital world, there is
Mm-hmm.
no going back.
That's right.
There's
That's
no
right.
going back. We're not prepared to understand and comprehend, even though some people are adapting faster than others, the younger
Mm-hmm.
generation. Another, and this is, we're speaking each other's words, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as we speak, in 2025, coming to an end, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the year coming to an end. So we are in the middle of the third decade, right? Um, there are six generations in the workplace.
That's right. That's right.
You talk about bias in data.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk to you all day long, and we will still have questions left,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The work ethics, the things, the younger people, I tell people when I have a chance to speak and address the younger generation, they're brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
We have given them fractured word. We had given them problems. We have
Yes.
to do something and mentor them and be mentored how they see the word they have adopted.
That's right. I wrote about that actually in my Leading with Psychological Safety book.
Yeah.
And I said five generations, so now it's six.
I think people
Yeah,
are working at 70 something.
yeah. But you said something that I have to call out because I just came out of the closet about this. So you said that, and I wrote this down when you said it, the 30% of the it's 18 to 20, I think 24-year-olds you found based on your interview and your studies were entering the workforce as neurodivergents. And so I would argue that, and not an argument, but I would also add, because I'm language is powerful and words are powerful, so I don't want to like speak anything that's negative. So I would add that I'm also, for the first time in my life, diagnosed as someone who is neurodivergent and who's masked it. I've masked it and overcompensated for centuries. I mean, for centuries, for decades.
Yeah.
And I'm finding reports that even older women in their 40s and 50s and have who have been in the workforce succeeding just fine because they've been masking have now are late diagnosed by their physicians because of what they're encountering. So
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. And what's concerning is that they're not prepared. Everything I'm seeing based on my own experiences and experiences of people DM me and message me and contact me all the time. They
Mhm.
see me write certain posts and they'll say privately, Amervis, I agree with what you're saying, but I cannot openly like your post and I cannot openly comment on your article or whatever it is
Yeah.
because I fear that my job, they might see me differently because of these things. And you're right. They're very, I'm finding that we're doing the neurodivergent a disservice because the majority that I interact with are very bright, just like
They
you
are
said, have so
right.
much to offer. And if we could just meet them
Unique
where they
talent
are.
there. There's a
That's
unique
right.
talent there. But when you put it into the perspective and into the verbiage of entering workforce, you know,
Hmm.
and this is not just United States because their study was done in United States. That doesn't mean that we're just limited to United States, right? So
That's right.
I find that as now we live in a global village, we are in a digital world. I don't want to go talking about my book, but it was really unraveling what I was hearing from leaders around the world, because that was important to hear. Different
Hmm.
perspective of leadership. My approach was holistic. It all comes back to fourth industrial revolution, the digital economy, the digital world, and the
Hmm.
AI. There is no digital world without the contribution of AI. I'm getting excited myself in having this conversation with you because now let's talk about, like, let's change the conversation because you are the
Oh, I'm
yesterday.
excited. You're speaking on my like I just I it's okay, so I have to say this because it's related to this topic before we move on. But I did a talk back in March. I was I was invited to come on a Saturday, went to San Jose to speak at a conference, and I remember part of my as I was preparing for it, I kept thinking, it's not the great when they talk about the great resignation, and then I was reading the data and I was like, they blame, there's this reframe of it's the individual employee, and it's not, from what I can tell, it's not the individual employee. Like, they're not lazy. The majority of them just want to do a good job. And I'm looking at this going, it's a time to shift from that reframe of the great resignation to the great transformation. Because there's an acronym that Daniel Pink wrote about, purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And we're in the age of the knowledge worker where that's all, you don't motivate people with money anymore. It's not about their paycheck. I mean, MIT and Sloan did a whole study on more than pay, 10 times more than pay. It's toxic environments that are affecting the disengagement epidemic that we're talking about.
Yes.
And I think it's really, really important that we stop entertaining people. Somebody said, oh, they just don't want to work. These young people, they just don't want to work anymore. And I was like, have you thought that maybe it's not that they don't want to work anymore? They just don't want to work for you because of how you lead.
Yeah.
So maybe
You'll
look in the
find
mirror.
that in every generation, there are select individuals that they don't want to. They just want to have their own way of life, and that's
In every
fine
generation. That's
in
right. I'm glad
every
you caveated
generation,
that. That's right.
right?
That's right.
So not blame it on young people. They're brilliant people. They are so um, um focused on the planet first, profit later.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Planet and people before profit. Absolutely. Yes.
So how come you not acknowledge that
That's
and
right.
blame the younger generation of, no, there is no blame game here. Learn from each other,
That's right.
collaborate, cross
That's right.
mentorship. They bring something, every generation brings something beautiful.
And even the tech, so the way that I think about it is they move a lot faster than we do with the technology. So I will
Yeah.
sometimes go, okay, great, mentor me on the tech and I'll mentor you on the strategy. And we can make
Build the
something better.
partnership.
That's right.
And
That's right.
let's come back to the data and AI.
Yes. Yes,
Before I
yes.
go there, I want to ask you, you're an author of best-selling a book of the Leading with Psychological Safety, 52 Essential Practices.
Yes,
Give
yes.
me a
Here's
little
mine.
bit more on that. Give me,
It's
is it
okay.
is it you're talking about technology, AI, or you're
No,
talking about
actually,
psychological safety?
I do touch on AI throughout the 52 practices where it makes sense. Um, but really what inspired the book and and the book really I couldn't sleep, Ritu. Like, I was supposed to be writing another book with my publisher, and one day we were meeting to go through the manuscript, and I can't focus on that book. I was like, my ancestors, my spirit, God, the universe is calling me to write this other book. And this Leading with Psychological Safety book started with, in my notes app on my iPhone, every time something negative happened, I said, okay, great. We need to create a practice, the opposite side of that practice, right? So
Mhm.
I was all aspirational. I was like, I'm going to have 100 and I'm going to create a book called 100 Essential Practices. And as I went through the process, because I didn't want it to be theory, you can buy a theory book anywhere. They're all over the place. I wanted it to be like the mirror mentor method, where you had not just what works and what doesn't work, but real life experience woven in. And what inspired me to write that book wasn't just the calling on my spirit, and how much I kept hearing people begging for better leadership, like
Yes,
begging
yes.
for it. So I wrote the book because safety had become a buzzword while harm was still being operationalized.
So let's
And I,
talk about it.
yeah.
Let's talk about it a little bit because this is the very important to hear and put it into the right perspective.
Hmm.
So the psychological safety,
Hmm.
especially in workplace, um, when we post-pandemic, hybrid workplaces, global workplaces, onshore, offshore, the managed service providers,
Hmm.
whatnot, and that's the norm.
That's right.
That's the norm. So you can't disrupt what's working right now for organizations. Let's talk about what's not working.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
so where does your book, Psychological Safety, lead into? Take your spin on how
mhm,
you see and how you documented what you heard from people. Because I'm going to say that as
mhm,
authors, when I wrote my first book in 1999, I started in 2000, I was getting some manuscript reviews. A professor
mhm,
said that to me, and I never forgot that. He said that when you read a book, you're reading author's mind. And
mhm.
anytime I read or I talk about it, if I think of it, I like to say it. You really are reading that author's mind. So the author have not only, and I say this, authors don't write the book for themselves.
Right.
We write it as a message. There is
Hmm.
so much work goes behind the scenes. So you must have thought a lot, gone through a lot of experience, had so much input. What you put together in that strategy, not the
Hmm.
strategy, I mean it's tell me from the psychological safety, what do you, Amervis
Uh-huh.
López Cobb, has to say? Tell me on
Well,
that.
I think my own experience, I think that as a child, and this is just me being 100% candid, as a child, I had psychological safety because my grandmother raised me until my first 7 years of life. And when I say that is that I could speak freely, nobody penalized me. I had ideas and I was 7, but I can still remember how I was with her. And my grandmother passed away, my mother took over, and my mother was not equipped to be a parent. And I did not have psychological safety
I see.
until I created it for myself and my son when I became a teen mom. And this is why I'm open about my son gave me reason to be better, not bitter, and transform my life. And
Very,
so when I
very
entered the
important.
workforce, oh yes, and I entered the workforce thinking, okay, great. Now I'm going to get psychological safety without knowing the phrases. And I want to say for the first decade almost, I was so blessed to have so many women leaders who saw my potential and helped me recognize how I could move my way up the corporate ladder. And even I even had somebody who gave me the Microsoft Project 98 user guide and sat next to me and said, "This is where I think you naturally fit is project management." And so as I moved up the corporate ladder and transitioned from individual IC, individual contributor, to manager, director, vice president, whatever, the further up I went, the less psychological safety I got.
Ah,
And the more,
okay.
and it's really around interpersonal risk taking. Because the way I see it is, if you can share your ideas, ask questions, and make mistakes without someone making you feel like you did something wrong and that you are damaged, then you have psychological safety. And that to me was really something that I felt was critical in leadership. I think they say Covey did the whole thing about Stephen Covey about trust is a key factor in high performance teams. And if
Hmm.
I think that if trust is a key factor in high performance teams, then you can't have a high performance team without psychological safety. I mean, even Google's Project Aristotle in 2019, they did a study and they realized that the most effective teams were the ones that had psychological safety. And that makes sense because if you can work on a team where you can raise your ideas and not be harmed, or you can make mistakes and it not be like you're a failure, or you can ask questions and it not be viewed as negative dissent, then of course you're going to innovate more. Of course your talent is going to stay. Of course, like you're not going to spend so much money in turnover and all that, you know.
The
Yeah.
trust is the foundation. It is the cornerstone. It's critical in every kind of relationship, right?
That's
So
right.
psychological safety is just not for workplace, but is for
Every
life,
aspect of our life. Yeah.
every aspect of our life. And how do you feel that how much trust has been eroded by
Oh,
corporate greed?
I'm so much trust has been eroded that the I looked at the EEOC report from 2024, and so much trust has been eroded that I think 88,000 EEOC cases were presented last year or filed last year. 48% of those cases are retaliation. So retaliation for speaking up. So almost half of the people who spoke up are now being retaliated against. I discovered this institute called the Workplace or Workforce Bullying Institute. I had no idea that
Oh
this
my
institute existed. That organization is finding that 55% of people who bully at work are
God.
the person that you report to. And so more than half of it's not your peers. Yes, it is your peers sometimes, but more than half of the people who are bullying are your direct managers. And then 67% of those people who speak up about what's happening, because you hear all the posters, you see all the posts, see something, say something. You have a compliance background, you know, right? And they speak up, and 67% of the time they either leave voluntarily because they can't take it, or they're forced out through gaslighting and other tactics. And so it is a huge problem because I think that not only is the data validating lived experiences, mine and other people's lived experiences, I also concerned about this reframe. I just learned that Title IX, I think, is what it was called back in 1972, the year that I was born. Title IX came out, and it was you're not supposed to discriminate, a law to not discriminate against women in education. And then after that law came out, all of a sudden we hear about this imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome never sat right with me because I was like, some of this is institutional gaslighting, not self doubt. Um, and now I realize that for women, and particularly women from historically excluded communities and cultures, it is the gaslighting, the constant gaslighting of making us believe something that is not true that really is causing this epidemic of the most educated women, I think, are Black women, and so the most businesses, entrepreneurs, self-employment or entrepreneurship are Latino women, from what I read. And I'm estimating. Please, nobody hold me accountable but do the research. Go on Perplexity AI or go wherever you go and do your research in record numbers. So the most educated, most unemployed, and then now we're saying, and we talked a little bit about this before we got on about tables and building tables. And so I've always felt like I was very fortunate that my hard work allowed me to enter the room and take a seat at the table, but the chair was always shaky. There was never a moment where the chair wasn't about to fall over if it didn't fall over. And I think that the fact that we're creating our own businesses, you're an executive coach, you know, right? It's all of this is leading to we have to create a better society where women are not treated like second class citizens, and then women from historically excluded communities and cultures are actually embraced and not looked at as we need the constant scrutiny. So women and heck are instead of scrutinized, and I say this all the time, right? We have to over explain ourselves, over credential, over overcompensate, and even just apologizing. I found myself, Ritu, before I'd even open my mouth, I'm like already apologizing. Why? Was I conditioned to say sorry repeatedly just for existing? Like just for my so
That's the messaging I bring in, that we keep proving ourselves over and over and over.
yes,
So I think we need to ourselves take a pause and realize that how do we change that narrative? How do we come to the table and not have our chair shaky?
that's right.
Right? So
That's right.
right now, women are equally educated. We make about 49 to 50% of the workplace. in paid work, and a lot of women work contribute without pay as well, household.
Mm-hmm.
So where I feel that women have to do double duty, take as a
That's right.
caregivers, as well as, and then because a lot of in our metropolitans around the world, you see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of single family
Mm-hmm.
households. So that creates a lot of financial burden, right?
Right.
So I think we are living the era, as we talked about earlier, that our sixth generation into the
Mm-hmm.
workplace, because women have to contribute. So we no longer are in that time, in the phases of life where one income could carry the
Was
whole
enough.
household,
That's
right?
right.
So, okay,
Right.
our demands have changed, our needs have changed. Whatever the gadgets that we need to have, all of that requires income, right?
That's
So
right. That's
whatever
right.
our reasons are, or financial safety. So
Right.
all together, women are the part of the workforce.
That's
So
right.
let's come back to the AI and data bias, because you expanded your expertise to include both AI and psychological safety architecture. So
Yes.
as being a technologist myself, I want
Mm-hmm.
to ask you, share your thoughts in design thinking, in
Mm-hmm.
systems.
Mm-hmm.
Systems meaning AI built systems, where it
Mm-hmm.
is the data is going to um, adversely impact women, either as healthcare, either as shopping. Women entrepreneurs spend majority of their revenue, they put it back into the business, right? So they
Right.
spend back. So in other words, they're contributors.
That's right.
They're contributing to the economy. And
Right.
for funding organization, they don't give capital funding
Mm-hmm.
to women, right?
No, yeah, that's right. It's very the low
Equally,
percentages of joint, yes, of
right?
capital funding.
So,
Yes.
so that's where I say, you say, many others say, we keep proving ourselves. Let's come back from the data perspective, from system design thinking. And what are your thoughts on
Well, I'm gonna just share an example of overcoming bias
that?
in a workplace, and why what you just shared matters for women and how it ties to design thinking. And so at one point, I was labeled difficult for naming bias that others ignored. And instead of internalizing that labor, I treated it as diagnostic data, a
Mhm.
sign that the system was allergic to accountability, as I like to say. And I documented patterns, I used compliance frameworks, and reframed resistance as evidence based advocacy. And that process later informed my proprietary framework, and I call it the Enough framework. And of course, we all love a good corporate acronym. So each of the Enough letters stands for something, right? And um, enough, it helps leaders turn personal survival into systemic redesign. And the lesson is, you don't overcome bias by conforming. You overcome it by forcing systems to evolve. Because I read somewhere that it is not the bias, it's the shark. And it made me think of this, and I have this tagline now that I use: change the soil, not the seed. We're blaming individual people for something that is really a system problem, not the individual person problem. And the Enough framework helps us start with: do you have enough psychological safety within to withstand this until the system catches up and gets redesigned? And so I have two frameworks. One is the Enough framework for the person, for internal safety. And then I have another one called I'm Power, which I started to write about in my last book, but we all change minute by minute. So I've since enhanced it to help with systemic redesign. And I look at it like between these two, you can address, you can't change systems without people, and you can't change people without systems. And I look at this and I'm like, because I grew up in tech projects, I'm always saying to myself, okay, so it's that same concept of um I'll give you a perfect example. So in 2004, I got introduced to a system called NICU, NIKU. And the executive director who bought it, he went to, I know this will resonate with you and anybody who's been in tech projects. He went to a conference, saw the shiny object, came back, bought it, and then told IT to roll it out. And they stood it up, but when I was hired, he asked me, why isn't anybody using it? And I'm like, well, you didn't wrap a process around the tool. You just stood up the tool, but there's all these configuration settings. You have to develop what your standard SOP, your standard operating procedure, your standard process is going to be to use it from a best practice perspective. And so we dug into all that and we were able to address it. And so I think of what's happening right now in terms of AI and bias, and I think of it and I say to myself two things. Number one is we have people creating the AI projects and solutions that are homogenized in nature, meaning that we don't invite the women and the people who are affected by it to have a seat at the design table when the design decisions are being made, when the requirements are being gathered. And so that's one aspect of it where I believe instead of saying that we're inclusive, let's actually be inclusive and do that same concept of, or implement that same concept of, the people who are most affected by whatever it is you're doing need to have a voice at the table. And if you don't include us at the table, great, for whatever reason, please include us in the whole testing aspect of it. And as you know, the whole quality assurance is one thing, user acceptance testing is another. So before you roll it out, even if you exclude us from the requirements and the design and the quality assurance testing, which is not ideal because UAT is not where you do the validation, but at least put us in there somewhere before it goes live. So it's not
Yeah.
um affected. And
I
all of these,
hear
yeah,
you.
sorry, go ahead.
No, 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 no. This is very important. I hear you. I share with you that another AI ethics person had told me. I had
Mhm,
asked similar questions where she felt the bias were high.
mhm,
And in her very expert opinion, because she has been also writing books on AI
mhm,
ethics. So was that the most of the coding of the AI design,
mhm,
AI systems are the younger generation
mhm,
of the coders, and those are mostly men, young men.
mhm.
They do, in her words, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
bouncing that off. Uh, they don't have enough experience to think. They're so tunnel vision, creating something and be proud of it,
Mhm.
not thinking of the repercussion of it,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So I thought about it, and I am sure that you have your own observations,
Mhm.
right? So where is the root cause of the design bias?
Well, I think that it all starts with the leaders who are making decisions about what the requirements are. Because you can have all the diverse engineers that you want at the table, but if the leaders aren't providing them the opportunity to speak up and share their thoughts or go consult with other people because they don't have the expertise or the experience, and they're just saying, hey, just code what we give you to code. I mean, requirements are coming up, are being developed by someone,
Someone.
and it's the leaders who are signing off on those requirements and saying, yes, that is what
Oh,
we
this
should.
is the part of the money I have and fit the requirements and consistent with the part of money.
That's
So
right.
if it
That's right.
requires more, no, we don't. So bypass that. Okay. All right. So
Yeah. And
it's,
and we I think both things can be true, Ritu. I think you can care about the planet and care about people and also make profit at the same time.
yeah.
Like you can, one is not exclusive of the other. Two things can be true at the same time. Right? And I don't see enough of that caring about the most important organizational asset, which is the person. And this is why I mean about the code that you gave the example of the engineer that's at the table. They're just coding what they told the requirement is. Compliance met the requirement, didn't meet the requirement. But if there's no psychological safety on that team, even if they had an inkling of something isn't sitting right, this we need to call it out. The
Yes.
lack of psychological safety means that there's fear-based leadership, not love-based leadership. So they're not going to speak up and they're going to deploy harmful solutions that
Ye-
could be harmful, to other
So
people because they're not thinking about stakeholder impacts, right? Primary and secondary stakeholders.
coming from the same work background, yes, the funding is also a factor.
Factor, the business case, right, right.
Correct. What they're trying to do. I want to turn our conversation on the positive side. We can talk about
Please
so
bring us
much.
back, bring us back. Yeah.
Where AI is helping humanity. Let's talk about it. Your observation.
Oh, it's helping humanity in so many ways, but I'm going to share a personal way AI is actually helping me in particular, and I think it might help other people. And while AI does have its biases, I've done testing, I can go into all that. I also think that AI is helping us, and dare I say, um, with um, being being more objective in some ways. Because I will tell you, and this starts from whether it's an email that goes out or an concept paper or an idea, I'm using AI to go be my board of directors, like be my act as X, be an objective third party that gives me whatever expertise.
Mhm.
I've thought about creating a GPT that actually has board expertise from every single person that I need to be able to build out my business, but that's a whole other idea. But the fact that it's giving me perspective, and I think it could help humanity, like, don't think of it to replace you or your teams completely. Think of it as having your own personal board of directors that will give you perspective and help you see blind spots that you don't see, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in whatever organization you're in, nonprofit. I see it being this huge perspective um offering that lets you know you're not crazy or you have a different way of looking at things and solutioning, like what would have taken me weeks to build a business plan back in 2019. AI is, I put in my thought and it spits out a whole plan, and of course, like, we have to tweak it, right? We have to go,
Yes.
yeah, that didn't quite work, take that out, put that in. And
So
I think that
personal
it's helping
productivity, you would say personal productivity
personal productivity. Yes,
can
thank you. I
enhance.
get excited and
There
go
is
off
a
on all the,
there
yes.
is a learning curve. For some
Yes,
people, the hesitation of adapting to
yes.
technology is a learning curve, and I get that. I'm sure there is a fear in people as
Mhm.
well for certain age
Mhm.
group that they would be replaced. I don't think there are even if they are in that age group, every job is replaceable. I don't
Mhm.
think, but the reskilling, which World Economic Forum predicted
Mhm.
that 50% of the global workforce would need reskilling of
That's
some
right.
level, right?
That's right.
50%, is it questionable? But I think if we are moving into the digital economy and global
Mhm.
economy, um, 50% workforce to be retrained, I don't think is exaggerated.
Right.
What's your thought?
I would even think it might be a little bit higher just with
Really?
some of the stuff that, yes.
Okay.
Um, and I think it's really, really important to, like you said earlier, because I'm glad you brought us back, to not fear. Like, there's this fear, this everybody's, it's coming, be afraid, it's gonna take over, we're all gonna be doomed. And I'm like, no, let's figure out how we can leverage it to do what we need to do in a more efficient and effective way.
I share some funny incident with you. I came to technology just around the Y2K. So
Mhm.
I had worked on a machine which was the size of the ATM machine to
It's a
now,
big one.
and so have seen that blue screens and have moved through uh, handheld devices with all power. in it. So we've come a long way.
Yes,
One
we
thing
have.
there was when online shopping came, people were so repulsive. Say, it's
Mm.
never gonna work. How much we love it package being delivered overnight in few hours outside our door.
Yeah.
We
Now
have
I don't
adopted.
want to go shopping in the store anymore like I used to. I want to do most of it online. You're absolutely right.
So we have adopted it.
That's right.
The other one was the Kindle. I had my own library. I am the person, I like to hold the book, have spine. I see that they're stacked on there. I have sticky notes. I have notes. The book looks red when I go through it. I was very opposed to Kindle. And then I heard the Kindle was very popular among generation, senior people who are traveling.
Hmm.
Instead of carrying book when they are on a vacation or cruising, they have Kindle with 1,000 books in it.
Wow.
So I saw the utility, how people become creative adopting technology. So I find that when, say, people become fearful of technology, take a pause, step back,
Hmm.
see the positive side of it. And if it's not for you, don't buy Kindle. Go buy
Right.
this book and sit on your recliner and do wherever you want to sit by the beach. Or do that also. But the utility of the technology, right? So it's here to stay. So we
That's right.
have a lot to kind of go over, but let's ask.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, um, anything else that stands out that you would like to share with audience and listeners?
Well, I mean, I always like to talk about my origin story because I think it helps people who are in similar situations see themselves the same way that I saw you and I saw Dr. Pauline. And I grew up where instability was the norm. And you mentioned that when you talked about the Badlands. And I grew up at a place where the media called it the Badlands. It also called it Philadelphia. And it was a scary place to be. And so systems became my survival language. And I learned early to design order out of chaos. And over time, that became my superpower as a project manager, turning human pain points into process improvements. And I led over $2 billion in transaction initiatives that had major impact,
Mhm.
not by being the loudest person, but listening for what the data and the people weren't saying. And every milestone became proof that structure and empathy can coexist and outperform. And so I really want people to understand, and I love joking around and saying, and I think I put on the back of the book last year, we don't need tech as much as we need tech. And when I say tech, I mean trust, empathy, and consistency. We need trust, empathy, and consistency more than we need technology. And some of the best projects I ever managed was we figured out all of that without the tech first. And then we use that as the basis for the requirements to make the tech help us be more efficient and effective. And I think you called it earlier productivity enhancement, or I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly what you said, right? So
The
um,
people are the user of technology. And
that's
if
right.
they're not involved into, you kind of invested without much ROI into it.
Yeah. When
Right?
people go, oh, I'm too high level. I don't want to know how the
Yeah.
sausage is made. Just make the sausage. I sometimes think, well, do you want beef? Do you want a beef sausage? Do you want a pork sausage? Do you want chicken sausage? Do you want a veggie sausage? Do you want mixed meat sausage? Like turkey, you have to be invested in how what goes into it, the requirements for it. A
Yes.
little bit. I know you're too, I think you
For audience who are not technically savvy or can follow what we're talking about, is that the technology is built for people, right? If people cannot understand and adapt to, what's the ROI? Not much,
That's
right?
right.
So if you're aiming for profits and you left the people, you're not going to have profits. Simple, very
Right.
simple math here it is. And also, I wanna ask you if you are open to, if you're open to share, please, that as women in tech. right. I myself have been the women of color in all men team, and people ask me, "You're an anomaly.
Mm.
Why aren't you angry or upset?" I said, there is no need to be angry or upset.
Why would
As
you?
the
Yeah,
cool-headed person, I need to get the job done.
that's
You know,
right.
similar to yours, nobody reports to me and I'm working with C-suite. I need to get the job done and deliver,
That's
right?
right.
Anyway, so I had been called anomaly way too many times. As women in tech, your thoughts?
Yeah. Mackenzie calls it the only, I think is what
Uh-huh.
you're the only in the room.
Oh.
And I don't mind being the only. I think it's not being the only that's the problem.
Mm.
It's it's the way that you're treated is the problem. Because I mean, like I remember hearing somebody, and it's kind of like you look around the room and you're like, okay, well, that's okay as long as they hear me out, and it makes me think about diversification of thought.
You know,
As long as you're
women
open, yeah, go ahead.
women adapt, and I have heard for other very talented women a similar
Mhm.
situation, being only in the room. And recently met someone, and she was saying that she was the only body with a red lipstick
Oh, the only one with red lipstick.
in the room, and that's the only, but she had to, like you said, that you had seat at the table but the rocky
Mhm.
chair. So yes, but how do
Yeah,
we leave a message for our younger generation of women? How do
yeah,
we say that, okay, you have a platform, you have
yeah.
the education, the talent, the um uh, compatibility,
That's
you
right.
have the expertise, but where do you
It's the
find the
it
psychological safety?
my advice, and I take this from having learned this way too late, is I always felt like my work should speak for itself. My education should speak for itself. My credentials should speak for itself. My ideas should speak for themselves. And I learned too late that the relationship matters, that people need connection before content. And if you're going to be in the room, don't be upset that you're the only one with red lipstick in the room. Go meet one on one with everybody that's in the room and get that connection going before you share
Very
your
important.
content, because that's how you're really going to be able to see, is the room even worthy of you being
Y-
in the room,
Yes, those
right?
connections are key. I would say that over again, because without connections, human connections, right?
Yeah,
I
that's right.
say that everyone with the title on the
Mhm.
table is a mom, dad, brother, sister,
That's right.
wife, husband. There's a human behind it. You have to
Right.
find that human.
That's right. And in some places I found it. I remember thinking, because I took the time to have a lunch or have a coffee or meet with somebody in a non-project assignment type way, just you're a human, I'm a human. I found that, oh, they have something in common with me and outside of work that might help us build a relationship that is more productive when we do need to get the work done. And in some cases it was successful, and I was able to see how important those relationship building activities are. And in some cases, I saw, oh, wait a minute, your values are not my values.
Yeah,
And this is not a strategic partnership that I want to be a part of. And your energy will speak. And when you feel so frustrated, I
happy.
think that that's your energy, your gut, your intuition telling you, step away.
Contentment
So
there. Yes,
that's right.
I had in my career, I had shown up in the fish bowls, in vendor
Fishbowls, I
sections,
remember
the
those.
floors where all the vendors were. And I heard from their managers, just stop by, say hello, introduce myself. And I had heard from their managers, no one came here to say hi to us. It
Wow.
changed. It changed so much. My email was addressed timely, and see, that's the value of relationship building. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. We all have job duty. We all have our assignments, but building those relations. So the key message for the younger generation who perhaps are blamed more often, that don't have as
Unfairly.
much as much communication skills. So what's the key message for that generation?
I think the key message for that generation is and this is I'm gonna just express yourself, right? Express yourself, express your ideas, nurture your energy. Make sure you watch out to where your energy is being given and that you're mindful about that and orient to your values because I've done a lot of the values sessions with what are your values? How do you know what your values are and whether somebody is in alignment with your values? So express yourself, nurture your energy, orient to your values so you can assign is this requirement being met or not? Because we also have requirements as human beings, right? I would say understand that bias is the problem of other people. It's not your problem. You cannot affect what other people think, and you don't need to shrink yourself, like they say. I think the term shrink yourself or make yourself small. Understand the value that you have and your competency and your who you are so that as you're moving through life, you're documenting all of your accomplishments. And so when somebody who's biased says something to upset you, you can go, no, thank you. That's not who I am. Here's
So
my
it's a
receipts.
positive
Yes.
spin. Not everyone would accept and hug from you, but handshake, yes.
Yes, that is right. Handshake out of respect.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Because we don't have to like each other to respect each other. And
absolutely.
then the last two things are grow. Keep growing. Use everything that happens to you to learn how is this happening for me as opposed to me, and what can I take from it? And as a positive spin, I would always stay at an organization as long as I was learning and growing. Stay and learn and grow. When you don't feel that anymore, And then the last thing is honor yourself, your dignity, like
Yeah,
like have dignity for you no matter what anybody else is saying, trying to stay positive. And because there were lots of times where I'm like, am I honoring myself?
yes,
So let me make sure that I'm doing it and that I'm modeling it for other people because as the younger generation, I'm seeing them honor them. I've learned from them. They're honoring themselves and their voice more. And I was like, hey, wait, I could be that way too. It's giving me courage.
yes. Living life to fullest while you contribute, make world better place and be the productive citizens of the society and contribute to your organization.
Yes.
All of that is needed, right, for our human civilization and our growth. The systems are part of it. They have become, they will be. There's no going back. So, a good conversation. Enjoyed every bit of it. Yes, so we have your book, your links. We'll be sharing that with our audience. Anything else as a parting message that you would like
I,
to?
I'm just very grateful, Ritu, that you included me as one of your podcast guests. I think that Woman of Power is a very perfect name for it, Woman of Power, and that I remember reading what you were doing, and I was like, yes, 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 I'm all for helping other women. And so I'm very, very gracious. And I have this little crystal heart that my daughter, my middle child, gave me for my birthday last year, and I like to sign off with it. So I'm just giving some crystal heart love to you,
Thank you.
whoever's watching, whoever comes across this in the digital space at any point in
Yes,
time. That really, I'm just sending out love to everybody because the more we send out love to each other,
yes,
the more Mother Earth, the world can be a better place. And that's all we're trying to do here is to make sure that we as humans are living in a place that actually cares
I
enough about
I
women.
appreciate. I appreciate closing that with a warm uh, thoughts. And I feel that women as mothers, the givers of life, uh,
Hmm.
as nurturers of life, it's our responsibility as well to bring everyone to the table. And so what?
Yes,
If someone doesn't see that, it's our responsibility. I feel that to give them that kind of empathy and compassionate gesture and let it be. Right.
that's
So
right.
when they are ready, they will turn around. But with a little bit, by little bit, we continue making world better place. And my message for the women of all generation, each one of you have a something beautiful to share. Never underestimate, but that should not be the matter of competition, but a collaboration.
That's
And with
right.
that said, I my message to our viewers is that please reach out to us and look for her book. And um, as we talk about technology or AI is not going to replace humans, but if you let it. So
That's
don't
right.
minimize yourself and search about it, adapt it to the best ability, to the need that it suits your life, adapt it. And there is so much AI can enhance and do for our humanity's better future. So, with that said, I would like to conclude here, and for the next time, we'll continue our thoughts. I am host Ritu Chopra. Until next time, bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope that information our guest has shared is helpful and you are taking away valuable tips and knowledge. We are committed to supporting women and building cause-driven businesses that create positive impact in their communities. Join us in the movement for change. Take action now and be part of Let's Come Together movement. Together, we can recognize, celebrate, and empower women who are making a difference in today's economy. Connect with passionate and powerful women, collaborate on cause-driven businesses, and build a better future for our communities. Let's advance sustainable goals for the people, planet, and prosperity. Join the Let's Come Together movement, a private community today, and be catalyst for change in creating and raising conscious leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.